Welcome back, Mets fans, to episode 2 of Raise the Apple. We are a week into the MLB regular season. The Mets currently sit 3-3 after dropping their opening series against the Astros and then winning the series yesterday against the Marlins. A lot has gone on with the Mets, and a lot has gone on around Major League Baseball, and we're going to talk about all of it today. Let's start with the Mets, though. That opening series in Houston, Juan Soto gets his first hit and his first home run as a New York Met. And overall, it was a winnable series. The Mets offense got going late, but unfortunately, they just couldn't finish the job. The bats were a little slow. I think the first couple games slow out of the gate, but then they started going, and like I just said, getting going too late. Bullpen was fantastic. Bullpen is, if the guys in the bullpen perform the way that we think they can perform, they're going to be a secret weapon for this team, I think. I mean, everyone's going to talk about the offense. Of course, everyone's going to talk about the question marks with the rotation, but I think this bullpen can be a sleeper asset to this team. Then the Mets travel to Miami for a 3-game set with the Marlins, win 2 out of 3, and they win the last game in extra innings, their first extra inning game of the year. Brazoban earns his first career save. Pete ties the game in the 8th inning with a 3-run homer. He's off to a pretty solid start this year. So, given it's only 6 games into the season, it's hard to fully grasp what the Mets are right now. It's only 6 games in, day off today, recording this Thursday night. Tomorrow, or when you're listening to it, Friday morning, it'll be the home opener for the Mets against the Blue Jays. I like this team. I'm not worried about this team. It's, again, a week into the season. They're 6 games in. The offense struggling out of the gate raised my eyebrows a little bit, but as they slowly started to get going, and then you're like, okay, this is a very good offense that the Mets have. The pitching, especially with the news with Sean Manaea, he's going to be shut down from throwing for 2 more weeks, so he gets a setback. That is not good for the Mets rotation, but one time through the rotation, it looked pretty good. Clay Holmes looked all right. He's still adjusting from being a reliever. Tyler McGill looked good. Senga had a weird start where he got off to a rocky start, then settled in, and then at the end kind of fell apart at the end. David Peterson, only really had 2 bad pitches that the Marlins hit for home runs. Other than that, he was phenomenal. So I like where the Mets are at right now. It helps also that the Braves cannot win a game to save their life. But it's a long season to go. There's this weird stat that the Braves are 0-7 right now, and no team in baseball history has made the postseason after starting the year 0-7. I'm still not counting out the Braves. The Marlins aren't going to be at the top of the division much longer. The Nationals won't stick around, so it's going to be between the Mets, Phillies, and Braves. And I think Atlanta is going to claw their way back into it. I just think they're too talented of a team, especially when Ronald Acuna Jr. comes back, when Spencer Strider comes back. They're just too good of a team to not be in the race for the division. So the Mets back at home for the first time this year tomorrow. I'm excited to see the reception that Soto gets, that Lindor gets, Pete for him coming back. It's going to be an awesome day at Citi Field tomorrow. Tyler McGill's on the mound, and I think he is going to be a key part in that rotation, especially with the setback to Sean Manaea. I think having McGill he doesn't need to be an ace. He doesn't need to, be the Siler McGill that Mets fans coined him when he first came up. If he's a solid, number 3, number 4 option for this team, that's all you can ask for from McGill. I think he'll be a sleeper arm in that rotation, and I think he's going to be very important for the Mets as the year goes on, especially now with the setback to Manaea. But there is a lot going on in the baseball world since last week. And the biggest thing, actually, before we get into the biggest thing, quick note for the Braves, because not only do they can't get a win the first week of the season, but Jurickson Profar will be out for the next 80 games, suspended for PED use, and will also be ineligible for the postseason. That is a huge, huge loss for Atlanta. Profar originally came up. When he came up as a prospect, was supposed to be the next big thing, and then it took him a couple years to get going. Got going in San Diego, was phenomenal. Was very annoying to deal with when he was in San Diego. Braves took a flyer on him this offseason. I know the Mets were in on him for a little bit, and he gets popped for PEDs. So it's just everything that could go wrong for Atlanta is going wrong right now, and you hate to see it. But with everything going on in Major League Baseball, the biggest topic going on is the New York Yankees and the Torpedo Bats. Personally, I'm going to say right off the bat, I think the Torpedo Bats are stupid. It might be a hot take. It might be me not understanding fully the thought process behind it. So with these Torpedo Bats, I mean, they are legal. Like, I'm not going to sit here and say they're cheating or anything like that. I just think it may be a bit of a baseball purist. Just aesthetically, they don't look good. They don't look like baseball. They look like if you ever played wiffle ball in the backyard, those giant, thick, hollow wiffle ball bats that you would use, they kind of remind me of that. I just think they're dumb. Because to me, and again, this may just be me not understanding it, but to me, it's players that are like, okay, I can't hit, so let me go back to the analytics and go back into the lab, and what can I do to hit? And changing the bat, I just think is changing the bat like that. I know it's within the rules. I think it's dumb. I don't like it. I know guys are going to continue to use it. I know Francisco Lindor's played around with it a little bit. I know the Red Sox and Twins played around with it in spring training. It is what it is. Analytics in baseball are a very hot topic. I like the analytics, but there's a point where it's too much. I think baseball's kind of losing that gut feeling a little bit and relying too much on the analytics. I think they're very helpful. Don't get me wrong, but I just think that having like the sole decision maker is looking at the analytics. I don't like that baseball's is heading down that path, but that's just is what it is right now. And the Yankees, the day the people started taking notice of these bats, the Yankees hit 9 home runs, including 3 straight meatballs off Nestor Cortez in that cookie cutter ballpark that the Yankees have. So take with it what you will. I mean, if it's legal, it's legal. I know I've seen some takes out there that if Major League Baseball is going to allow the Torpedo Bats, then they should allow Barry Bonds into the Hall of Fame, or that the Yankees are cheating. Tyler McGill's brother said that essentially, I'm paraphrasing what he said, but he understands it's legal, but even if it wasn't legal, it's the Yankees, so they're going to get away with it because they're the Yankees. Which is a fair point, because it is good for baseball when the Yankees are good. When the Yankees are bad, it is not good for baseball. That's just the way the organization has been forever. And I'm not a fan of these Torpedo Bats. I think that you need to be able to hit with the standard regular bat. I know it has something to do with shifting the weight of the bat, but I'm just personally not a fan with them. I don't think that's baseball. I think it's too much of the analytics taking over the game, and it's starting to take away from the feel. And again, that might be the baseball purist in me that's thinking that, but overall, not a fan of them. I hope the Mets, I know Lindor's played around with it a little bit, but I hope the Mets kind of steer clear of that, because the last thing the Mets need is any negative media attention or doing anything that the Yankees are doing. So it is what it is, though. I mean, it is legal. It was only talked about for that first weekend because the Yankees hit so well that day, and then now it's kind of fizzled out. It's more of just people splurting out random takes like, oh, they're stupid, oh, this is great, oh, why did no one ever think of this, why did we take so long to think of it? But that's the torpedo bats in a nutshell. I'm personally not a fan of them, but they are legal, so and it is the Yankees, so there's only so much you can do with that. Also going on in the baseball world, there were a lot of contract extensions going on. Ketel Marte was one of them. Diamondbacks, Ketel Marte agrees to a 6-year extension worth $116.5 million. And with the deferred money in the contract, what that does is it helps the Diamondbacks in the near future, in terms of salary cap and all that stuff. This was a great move for Arizona. I think it's a little overdue, given a couple years ago he was runner-up in the MVP. Last year he was in the conversation for the MVP as well. Him and Corbin Carroll, they have a fantastic pitching staff. Adding Corbin Burnes, and you have Zach Gallen, and you have Merrill Kelly, and they extended Brandon Pfaadt as well. That's a solid rotation, and offensively they've been an inconsistent team. Corbin Carroll had a down year last year, started to pick it up towards the end of the year, but coming into this year, Ketel Marte and Corbin Carroll are the two guys in Arizona where they need them. And I think Arizona committing to Ketel Marte is a great sign that Arizona is going to be a sleeper team in terms of a wild card spot, because obviously I think everyone's in agreement no one's catching the Dodgers in the West right now. Although maybe San Diego, because neither one of San Diego or the Dodgers want to lose right now. But that was a great move overall for Arizona, keeping Ketel Marte. And also, it was a smart in terms of money. It didn't cost them, what a lot of the superstars are going for now with $300 million plus and things like that. In Arizona, with a smaller market, I think overall it was just a great, great move for the Diamondbacks. Staying out west, the San Diego Padres extended Jackson Merrill for 9 years, $135 million. Holy underpay for San Diego, in a good way. A Jackson Merrill extension, it seemed like it came out of nowhere, especially after their owner passed away over the offseason. You didn't know money-wise, what they were going to do. Were they going to continue to be spend-happy like they've been the past few years? Or were they going to scale back a little bit, regroup, and then kind of figure out where they are? But committing to Jackson Merrill this early, he was the runner-up in the Rookie of the Year last year to Paul Skeens. He was getting MVP votes, finished in the top 10 in the MVP. That's just how good he was last year. I think that another great move for an NL West team. Anything you can do to help try and take down the Dodgers. But Jackson Merrill is someone that I think is going to be a superstar for a long time. And in the long run, if he performs like his rookie year last year, or even a portion of what his rookie year was like, I think that San Diego got him on the cheap, and that contract's going to pay off extremely well in the future. The Padres are a weird team because the past few years we've been talking about how they're the team, they're going to make a run at the Dodgers, they're a threat in October, there's so much excitement, so much everything around San Diego. You had the Slam Diego stuff a couple years ago, but it just hasn't clicked yet. I know in 2022 the Dodgers knocked the Mets out in the playoffs, but San Diego's just been very underwhelming the past few years with how much money they've spent, with how much talent they've brought in. A lot of egos in that clubhouse. And I think that kind of leaked a little bit a year or two ago when Soto was there, when he had Soto and Machado and Fernando Tatis before he got suspended. You just had a lot of egos in that locker room. And I think that San Diego's slowly starting to fix that, put it all together, and I mean they're always going to be a playoff team for the foreseeable future. Committing to Jackson Merrill just confirms that they're still going to be a competitive team. But overall, another great move out in the NL West. And then switching from coast to coast, the Red Sox made a pair of extensions. Christian Campbell was one of them, but the big one was Garrett Crochet, 6 years, $170 million extension for Garrett Crochet. Finally, the guy gets paid. Came up very quickly, shortly with Paul Skeens. Came up very quickly through the system with the White Sox. Essentially told the White Sox, pay me or don't use me. There was the whole drama with the White Sox with that. The Red Sox pull off the trade this offseason to bring him in, and he was phenomenal in spring training. His strikeout ratio is through the freaking roof. That's what the Red Sox needed to do. When you can't, the AL East, in my opinion, and the AL in general, is so wide open. And when you're Boston and you brought in Bregman and you make a trade for a guy like Garrett Crochet, it was like dummy proof. Like, this is what the next thing you need to do is extend him. And they got him for a great deal. I think Boston is committing a lot to their ace, but they know he can be that ace. Garrett Crochet is certainly in the conversation for the AL Cy Young this year if he pitches to what we've seen from him. And I think he's just going to be a nasty, nasty arm for the Red Sox in that rotation. And given, I know Rafael Devers has been god-awful to start the year. What was it, till last night? It was 0 for 21 with 15 strikeouts or something like that Devers was. Given how once he figures it out, him with Bregman and Christian Campbell and everyone else in Boston, along with Garrett Crochet at the top of the rotation, the Red Sox, they are a sleeper team in the American League in general. Not to win the pennant, not just win the division. That the American League is so wide open, and Garrett Crochet is going to be a huge part of what the Red Sox do moving forward. So that was a great move for them, along with extending Christian Campbell. We've seen it a lot over the last couple years with teams committing very early to their future superstars. You see the Red Sox with Christian Campbell. You see the Padres with Jackson Merrill already. You've seen in the past when Jackson Chourio got paid from the Brewers a couple years ago, and Corbin Carroll got paid from Arizona. Paul Skeens, I wouldn't be surprised if Paul Skeens is in that conversation soon in terms of extension talks. When it comes to the Mets, I think it's still a little early on Alvarez, but he would be that. Alvarez and or Vientos would be that guy for the Mets. So it's starting to become more of a trend in Major League Baseball where you see teams committing dollars right away to these young superstars. Very high risk, very high reward. I think all these moves are going to pay out for those teams. We saw how good Jackson Chourio was last year. You know, we had which rookie Jackson is better with him, Merrill, and Jackson Holiday. Jackson Merrill's obviously worked out very well for San Diego so far. I think Crochet is going to be fantastic in Boston, and I think Christian Campbell is going to be fantastic in Boston as well. So a lot of new age baseball coming in. Baseball purists, a little bit of myself, may not be the biggest fans of it, but I think baseball is in good hands with the superstars that are coming up. I think baseball, though, can do a better job of filtering out some guys, i.e. the Marcelo Zunas of the world, but that's a conversation for another day. But we're going to circle back to wrap up this episode with the Mets and their home opener at Citi Field. Tyler McGill is going to be on the mound for Game 1 against the Blue Jays. Some Mets are going to make their return. Old Mets are going to come back. Bartolo Colon was one of them. Juan Lagares was also mentioned as making his return to Citi Field. Lagares was like a forgotten Met. He was there for so long, but no one ever really talks about him. He had his random Gold Glove season, and I believe it was 2014, I want to say. 2014, his Gold Glove year, and he's always been he was personally one of my favorite players to watch. I loved watching him play center field growing up. So seeing him back will be cool. Bartolo Colon will be back. And it's just going to be an awesome day. You got Kevin Gausman on the mound for Toronto, the Blue Jays gotten off to a solid start, 5-2 entering play today. And then you got Chris Bassett making his return to Queens against Griffin Canning. Griffin Canning, by the way, looked solid for the Mets in his first start. Francis pitching for Toronto in the Sunday game with David Peterson, making his second start of the year. And then Miami comes into town on Monday to continue the homestand. So a lot to look forward to for the Mets, a lot to look forward to in baseball in general coming up this week. It's been a great start to the year. The Dodgers are still undefeated. Shohei Ohtani hit the walk-off home run last night, and I just hope someone at some point knocks down the Dodgers, because damn, are they going to be annoying all year long. But that was a lot. We went through it pretty fast, but let's wrap up today's episode with Today in Baseball History. And we're going all the way back to 1966. A little bit of Mets fun fact for you. This date in 1966 is when the Mets signed Tom Seaver. After going through the draft process and all that stuff, Tom Seaver ends up with the Mets. Greatest pitcher in Mets history. The only reason I say it like that is this may be a hot take as well, is he a 1A, 1B with Jacob deGrom? I know injuries were an issue with deGrom and the longevity. He came up in 2014, 2015. deGrom came up, burst on the scene, has been phenomenal until he left for Texas, and looked great in his first start of the year for Texas this year. I mean, you can't discredit Tom Seaver, but we also can't forget Jacob deGrom and just how, 2018, we're talking about one of the greatest seasons of all time in terms of pitching. Compared to Pedro's 2000, Bob Gibson's 1968 season, we're talking one of the greatest seasons pitched of all time with Jacob deGrom. And if the argument could be made between deGrom and Seaver over who the greatest Met pitcher is of all time, I think a lot of newer, younger Mets fans would say deGrom, and a lot of older Mets fans would say Seaver, and it's an insult to Seaver to say anything other than that. But that certainly, in the offseason, I think that's something worth looking into. But that's going to wrap it up for this week on Raise the Apple. Make sure you like, comment, share, subscribe on YouTube, subscribe on Apple Podcasts, follow on Twitter and on TikTok at RTA_pod. Lots of great stuff coming, especially over the summer. I'm super excited for it, and I hope you guys enjoyed it. Thank you for tuning in this week. The Mets home opener tomorrow or today afternoon against the Blue Jays. Tyler McGill on the bump, and hopefully the Mets can come away with the win. Thank you for tuning in. Again, hit that subscribe button, and let's go Mets.